Tonight, you don't need to do anything but rest. Breathe slowly with me once, soft in through the nose, gentle out through the mouth, letting your muscles sigh and the pull of the chair, bed, or floor loosen its hold. Imagine gravity easing like a hand releasing your shoulders, and with that small release, picture yourself beginning to drift, not falling, simply floating, slow as a leaf in a warm, quiet current. We will travel together, just drifting past familiar things into a calm vastness. My voice will be a steady companion, and the facts I share will be gentle brushstrokes on a dark, comforting canvas. If this quiet voyage brings you any ease, a soft tap on like and subscribe helps others find this calm. Now, let us float inward toward light. Close enough to the sun to feel its presence, but far enough to be safe, we glide into the sun's neighborhood, where heat is not a shout, but a steady hum. Deep at the center, the sun makes energy by fusing hydrogen into helium. That core is an enormous patient furnace, unimaginably hot, and yet its work feels like a slow, steady heartbeat that warms the whole system. The light and warmth we know begin there, then rise through layers, taking their time to travel outward. A photon born in the core may wander for many, many years, scattering and reappearing, until finally, after its long, patient shuffle, it slips into space. The sunlight that reaches us now left the sun about 8 minutes ago. Think of that. Each ray on your skin is a small traveler on a quiet journey. If you listen closely, the sun whispers. Scientists call it helioseismology, the study of the sun's gentle vibrations. Waves ripple across and within it, like soft ringing in a bell. These vibrations tell us about the sun's inner life, the way its layers breathe and move. The surface looks alive with slow, roiling cells, bright centers and dim edges moving in an unhurried churn. It is a reassurance. Even the greatest sources of power have a measured rhythm. Beyond visible light, the sun has a tenuous, shifting skin. Its outer atmosphere, the corona, reaches farther than you might imagine and glows in a thin, faint way. Occasionally, the sun releases a single flare or a breath of charged particles. To us on Earth, these are gentle reminders of the sun's presence, painting the sky near the poles in soft curtains of color when they reach our magnetic shield. For unshielded instruments and for astronauts without protection, these bursts are unfriendly, but from here they are simply another subtle voice in the sun's chorus. And quietly, very close to that singing fire, a small human-made explorer keeps moving inward. The Parker Solar Probe is like a tiny, brave thing slipping into a great warmth. It carries instruments that measure the sun's outer atmosphere and the fast winds that stream away. It doesn't scream its findings. Instead, it touches the sun's neighborhood and sends back gentle whispers of the end.
In that exchange, our instruments listening to the sun, there's something very soothing, curiosity paired with respect, careful and calm. Now let us drift inward a little more, toward the rocky mornings of our solar family. We float past the bright face of Mercury, small and close, a planet that wears its history openly. Mercury has an exosphere rather than a full atmosphere, a paper-thin veil of atoms knocked loose by the sun's light and the occasional micrometeorite. In some places near its poles, ice hides in the shadows of deep craters, sheltered from the sun's heat. That thought comforts me. Pockets of quiet, frozen stillness tucked in dark hollows, even by a world so near the light. Beneath its surface is a core that takes up more of the planet than you might expect, a heavy iron heart that gives Mercury an odd, stately density. Imagine a small stone with a warm, dense pulse at its center. It seems solid and settled, like an old sentinel. Further out, Venus waits, wrapped in clouds so thick they hide its face. Venus turns slowly, in a stubbornly different way from most planets. It spins backward, a retrograde turn that means its day is longer than its year. The dense atmosphere, thick with carbon dioxide, traps heat so efficiently that Venus is the hottest of the rocky planets. If you could stand there, though you cannot, the landscape would be quiet in an oppressive, continuous hush, as if any breath were swallowed by the air itself. Scientists describe Venus using careful language. Its surface is hot, its atmosphere is dense, its climate a tale of powerful greenhouse effects. Yet in imagining it, remember the softness, clouds rolling like heavy curtains, a slow, sunless day that seems to hold its breath. We come now to our own warm, comfortable blue world. Earth is unexpectedly dense among the rocky planets, a place where water exists in 3 states, solid, liquid, and gas, across the surface. Oceans breathe slowly in tides, waves, and currents. The planet's outer skin rides on plates that drift and reshape the surface, building mountains and opening basins in a patient geological motion. This slow change frames every coastline, every valley, every city. Earth's magnetic field offers a quiet shield, a gentle guardian that pushes charged particles away and helps preserve the atmosphere and water. It hums invisibly, like a blanket that keeps a small flame steady. And beside Earth, faithful and familiar, hangs the moon. It is large for a satellite, a companion whose size and distance shape the rhythm of our tides. The moon creaks sometimes, moonquakes ripple through its shell, and its slow drift away from Earth is barely measurable within a human life, yet it changes the timing of tides over epochs. Imagine the moon as a patient partner, steady in its slow outward glide. Its surface holds footsteps left by humans, small, private echoes of our curiosity. The moon lights our nights in a way that has comforted generations.
It is a quiet lantern, casting its soft, pale light across sleeping landscapes. Gliding outward, Mars appears as a gentle, rust-colored presence, a world of grand, silent architecture. There are places on Mars that stretch wider than the lengths of continents we know. Canyons like Valles Marineris carved by long-ago forces, and mountains so tall that they rise above thin, cold air. Olympus Mons, a shield of layered volcanic stone, stands like a slow monument to an ancient, patient heat. Martian winds lift dust into wide planet-covering storms at times, shifting the color of the surface and smoothing the edges of features. Seasons still turn there, marked by subtle changes in frost and dust. Pieces of Mars have found their way to Earth as meteorites, small, quiet travelers that have crossed and recrossed space, carrying the memory of another world. As we drift between these inner worlds, note the sensation of moving without hurry. Each planet carries its own kind of quiet: Mercury's hidden ice, Venus's thick curtain, Earth's dynamic blue, the Moon's steady sliver, and Mars's broad, sleeping scars. Each one keeps its history in layers: crust, mantle, core, atmosphere or exosphere, frozen places and warmed ones. There is no need to remember every detail. Allow the shapes and textures to settle into your mind like stones in a stream. They don't demand judgment. They simply are, and in their being they offer a soft comfort. Beyond Mars, the space between planets becomes broader in feeling. We approach a region of smaller bodies, asteroids, fragments, and whole, that glide in slow, patient orbits. The asteroid belt, often imagined as a crowded wall of rock, is mostly empty. Here and there, rocks drift in discrete paths, separated by enormous distances. Ceres, the belt's largest resident and a dwarf world, holds an unassuming presence. It is not a dramatic centerpiece, but a quiet, rounded body with hints of past activity, little bright spots, subtle textures, a gentle reminder that even small places in space can shelter complex stories. Other asteroids show themselves as layered rocks, as if they were once pieces of larger worlds, broken apart and reassembled into rubble piles bound by gravity's faint pull. Imagine them as slow, drifting islands of stone and metal, each with its own shape and silence. Some of these small wanderers keep steady company with larger planets, sharing similar orbits in a gentle co-orbital dance. A few of Earth's nearby companions are tiny and shy, companions that linger in similar paths without crowding. They never hurry. They glide in the same sunlight that warms us, and sometimes, for a moment,
They hint at the endless variety of shapes a solar system can take. We pause here at the edge of the inner neighborhood, the boundary between the familiar and the wide unknown. The light has shifted subtly. The sun's glow is still present, but things grow cooler, quieter, in a soft, breathable way.
Ahead, the giants wait, the slow, layered worlds of gas and ice, rings that whisper, and moons that tuck away hidden oceans beneath frozen shells. For now, we rest at this gentle hinge, inhaling the measured absence between rocky worlds and the distant, deeper reaches. There is a delicate sense of balance in this place. Each orbit, each rotation, feels like a quiet agreement maintained across time. The planets do not collide in chaotic fury. They keep their lanes, settled as if in a deep shared understanding. Alignments are often less dramatic than they are imagined to be. They are long, subtle geometries in the slow web of gravity, not harbingers of upheaval. So as we prepare to drift outward, let the reassurance remain. Space is vast, motions are gradual, and most changes unfold on timescales that let us watch in calm wonder. When you're ready, breathe with me once more, feeling how each slow breath carries you a little farther from that warm inner light and a little closer to quiet icy blues and whispering rings. We will push outward together in the moment, toward the great giants who keep their own slow counsel. But for now, let the memory of the sun's hum and the inner world's hush settle. Imagine the view from a gentle height, Earth like a soft gem, the moon nearby as a pale bead, Mars distant and rusted, Ceres small and rounded. The space between them is a cushion, soft and wide. As we begin to ease outward beyond the asteroid band, take one more slow breath and let any tightness in your shoulders peel away. There is room here to breathe, room to drift, and time enough to listen. We will meet the giants next, and their stories are slow and grand, full of hidden heat and quiet storms. For now, hold the image of small, steady worlds and the sun's subtle rhythm, and allow a sense of gentle curiosity to fill the space where the day's noise used to be. Now we ease outward, past the quiet hinge where rocky worlds give way to immense, layered giants. Let your breath stay slow and easy as we approach these broad, slow-rotating planets. Imagine them as enormous, quietly breathing beings, each one wrapped in bands, clouds, and faint rings, moving with a stately patience that soothes rather than startles. Jupiter is the first of these great keepers. From a distance, it looks like a pale, banded globe, stripes of clouds sliding around its middle. Inside, Jupiter still glows with leftover heat from its formation, a soft internal warmth that gives the planet a gentle life. That hidden heat drives slow currents in its thick atmosphere, currents that curl into storms and bands. One of those storms is the Great Red Spot, a rounded, slow cyclone that has turned for centuries. It is not fierce in storybook terms. It is an old, spinning whisper that has persisted for ages, a long-lived swirl of color and motion measured in human curiosity.
Around Jupiter, dozens of moons keep their own quiet orbits, each a little world with its own textures: smooth ice, fractured crusts, pitted rocks. Jupiter's magnetic field stretches out like an invisible shawl, funneling particles into soft glows and shaping the space around it in ways we can sense but not immediately touch. Just beyond Jupiter lies Saturn, whose presence many describe as a slow hymn. Saturn's rings are the most delicate feature in our solar neighborhood, thin sheets of ice and rock that float in a broad, flat disk, more like the pages of a book spread wide than a solid band. From afar, they shimmer as a whispering ribbon, and close up, they reveal a million tiny conversations, particles colliding briefly, tumbling, shifting, caught in quiet resonances. Cassini taught us that the rings are dynamic, sending tiny amounts of material inward in a soft, steady trickle, often called ring rain.
That process suggests rings are not eternal fixtures, but changing, slowly fading features, an elegant reminder that even the grandest things are transient. At Saturn's north pole, a geometric pattern named the hexagon spins calmly, a structured, slow-moving weather system that seems almost like a calm choreography of winds. Saturn also hosts moons, large and small, from tiny icy shards to the hazy, lake-decorated Titan, each one carrying its own hush. We glide farther still to the cooler, more distant giants, Uranus and Neptune. Uranus lies on its side, rolling gently as it orbits. Its tilt is so extreme that seasons there are long and slow, as if the planet takes decades to finish a single mood. Uranus appears faint and pale, an ice giant with muted rings faintly traced against its face. Its internal heat is subtle, less obvious than the warmer giants, and it keeps a quiet reserve of energy beneath the clouds. Neptune, slightly deeper into the night, feels darker in color but lively in motion. Winds on Neptune sweep faster than the sound of breath on Earth, swift and unseen, yet their presence is more a whisper in the mind than a sudden gust. Neptune also gives off its own internal warmth, a private ember beneath cold skies, and it was a planet whose existence was suggested by mathematics before it was seen directly, a reminder of the gentle, patient ways reason can reveal hidden worlds. As we float among these giants, notice how different shapes of motion become a comfort. Bands of clouds slide into one another. Storms wax and wane over many years. Rings gather particles in thin layers. Moons travel in patient orbits, some showing cracks and grooved surfaces, some spouting narrow plumes that shimmer into the darkness. Each of these motions is slow enough to match the rhythm of your breath. Let us move closer to those moons that keep secrets beneath their surfaces. Europa, one of Jupiter's inner moons, is cloaked in a sheet of ice patterned with long, dark lines like the cracks in a frozen lake.
Scientists listen for subtle clues that tell of a salty ocean hidden below, warmed gently by tides tugging at the moon's interior. That possible ocean is sheltered under a shell of ice, quietly slipping and flexing with Jupiter's pull. Ganymede, larger than the smallest planets, is a giant moon that holds its own magnetic whisper. Its surface is a patchwork of older, heavily cratered terrain and smoother regions, an ancient landscape that remembers many small impacts and slow shifts. Enceladus, a smaller moon of Saturn, surprises with delicate plumes that jet outward from fractures near its south pole. Those plumes are fine and bright against the dark, like a soft fountain throwing mist into space. Through those streams we glimpse subsurface activity, warmth beneath ice sending up material that drifts away, leaving a faint, sparkling trail. It's an image of hidden motion. Below a cold shell, there can be quiet, ongoing processes. Titan, also around Saturn, greets us with an atmosphere dense and golden, rich with nitrogen and braided with organic hazes. Its surface holds lakes and seas of methane, liquids that behave in slow cycles like rain and rivers and fog, but with chemistry different from our own. To imagine Titan is to think of a planet-sized hush, thick and muffled, where weather moves in languid, poetic gestures. Io, in Jupiter's company, keeps a different kind of rhythm. It is restless, marked by countless volcanoes that sculpt its surface with fresh flows. Those eruptions are part of Io's constant renewal, a reminder that some worlds remain energetically lively long after their formation. Callisto, also around Jupiter, tells its story through an old, heavily cratered face, an archive of impacts and quiet aging. Triton, Neptune's largest moon, moves in a retrograde path, as if it came from a different window and then settled into a backward dance. Its surface shows geysers that stream faint material into the dark, delicate puffs that hint at hidden warmth. When we speak softly about hidden oceans and subsurface warmth, it is important to keep our language gentle and cautious. Scientists describe conditions that could support certain chemistries or niches. They point to possible hydrothermal vents, to salty oceans warmed by tidal movement, to chemical gradients that in other contexts on Earth are associated with life. But these are its invitations to wonder rather than declarations. Imagine the possibility like an unread letter. The page might hold a tender note,
It might also simply be a blank. Either way, the thought of hidden, slow-moving oceans under ice is a comforting kind of mystery, quiet, patient, and vast. Beyond the large moons, rings and small bodies keep their own subtle stories. Some rings are broad and thin, composed of particles that range from dust to house-sized chunks. Others are faint ribbons barely visible without careful gaze.
The particles within rings gently collide, sometimes clumping together for a while and later dispersing. Near moons, ring particles can form miniature structures, tiny wakes and waves that ripple outward like the soft wake behind a boat. Small moons, called shepherd moons, keep ring edges tidy with their gravitational nudges, shaping the dust into arcs and gaps that look almost deliberate, like the careful brushstrokes of a slow artist. Let us drift now to the borderlands of the solar system, where sunlight grows thin and objects grow cold. The Kuiper Belt begins as a scattered disk of small icy worlds, each one circling the sun in a patient, distant path. They are slow and faint, like polished stones under dim light. Pluto sits among them, a compact world with surprising features, a heart-shaped plain that speaks of seasonal changes, and a thin, ebbing atmosphere that billows as Pluto moves closer to the sun and then recedes. New Horizons gave us a close look at Pluto, revealing mountains of water ice, plains of nitrogen, and the delicate layering of a world that changes over its long seasons. Beyond Pluto, other Kuiper objects shimmer. Some are contact binaries, two lobes gently resting together as if held in a soft embrace. Their surfaces are ancient and cold, and their slow orbits make them quiet companions in the far outskirts. Even farther still lies the hypothesized Oort cloud, a spherical, distant fog of icy bodies that may cradle the solar system at its edges. We cannot see it directly. We infer its existence from the occasional long-period comet, small travelers that come inward after long, slow voyages. The Oort cloud, if it is there, is like a misted border, a soft perimeter where the sun's influence fades into a deeper shared space. Surrounding all of this is the heliosphere, the vast magnetic bubble that the sun blows around itself with a steady wind of charged particles. The heliosphere is our system's gentle exhalation, a breathing boundary that meets the interstellar medium far beyond the planets. Where the sun's wind finally gives way is the heliopause, an edge that is more like a gradual fade than a hard wall. Spacecraft have stepped into these regions and sent back soft, far-away signals. Two of those Voyagers, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, are among the quietest stories of human reach. Launched long ago, they travel now in the deep dark, tiny dots of metal and memory, still sending faint whispers back to us. Each carries a small golden record, a single human gesture into the vast, sounds and images encoded as if in a bottle, a way to say, here we were, and we listened. The records are not a claim of grandness. They are modest and tender. Music, greetings, the sound of waves, a mother's lullaby. Imagine those discs slowly passing through empty stretches, bearing our soft fingerprints. The Voyager's progress is measured in decades.
Their messages arrive after long delays, and each packet of data is a patient conversation across years of travel. Nearer to the Sun, the Parker Solar Probe continues its close, careful passages. It skirts the very edges of the Sun's atmosphere, dipping into regions where the solar wind forms and where magnetic structures unfurl. The probe endures heat and gusts, sending back small, precise notes about how the Sun breathes outward. Each of these missions, Voyager, Parker, Cassini, New Horizons, reads a page of the solar system's slow history and returns that page to us, folded and annotated by our instruments and curiosity.
Think of that travel as a tiny pilgrimage, patience, scattering, emergence. The light you feel now is a trace of that patient passage. Time in the solar system flows on many scales. Seasons turn on planets with tilted axes, tides move with lunar companionship, and storms on the giants may swirl for centuries. The sun orbits the center of our galaxy slowly, keeping its own long, measured pace. All of these rhythms emphasize the same gentle lesson. Motion need not be urgent to be meaningful. There is dignity in gradual change, and comfort in cycles that do not demand immediate reaction. As we let these ideas settle, imagine drifting ever farther until the edges of the sun's influence soften into the interstellar medium. Picture the heliosphere like a pale bubble, rippling softly where it meets a dark, star-scented field. Imagine the voyagers still moving outward, their antennas turned toward a small blue bead but holds us. See the golden record tucked inside, a human whisper that may one day drift near silent strangers. Picture New Horizons receding after its quiet encounter with Pluto, its cameras still returning grainy, distant impressions of contact binaries and frigid planes. There is a humility in being part of such a system. We are tiny in an enormous dance, yet curious in a way that is tender and persistent. Our instruments, our probes, our stories reach outward, not as loud proclamations, but as gentle questions and offerings. The human touch in this vastness is small and loving. A record, a probe, a photograph. They are gestures of noticing, of listening, and learning. As your breath remains slow, allow the image of all these places to gather like soft stones on a shore. Each stone is different, smooth or rough, pale or dark, but together they make a shoreline that you can walk along in your mind. You do not need to inspect each one carefully. Let them rest there, holding their textures and slow motions as the tide of your breath rises and falls. If any thoughts stir or clamor, imagine them as comets that pass through this scene, bright for a moment, then trailing away into the dark. They do not need to land. Let them glide by. Return to a simple anchor, the sound of the sun's hum, the slow rotation of a giant, the soft plumes of a moon. These anchors demand no effort. They exist whether you watch them or not. Now, gently fold attention back toward your body. Feel the weight of your chest lifting and drifting down on each inhale and exhale. Picture the moon casting a pale bead of light across a quiet plain. Picture Saturn's rings as a thin, whispering halo. Picture the voyagers carrying the soft echo of our songs. Allow these images to blur into a peaceful darkness, like curtains drawing closed at the end of a day. If this quiet journey has given you any ease, consider returning for more gentle voyages. A gentle subscription helps these calm explorations find others who seek rest. But there is no obligation, only a soft invitation.
You may now let your mind drift further, deeper, into sleep if it chooses. The solar system will continue its slow, steady motions, untroubled, patient, and timeless. Rest in that company. Good night, and sleep well.